So you've decided that you want to go for an Infernal Cape in Leagues. I think that's a smart decision. You know, I'm in the same boat. Great minds think alike, or something. So before I jump into any of the like setups or areas to pick, I just want to make sure we're on the same page and just give a high-level rundown on what the Inferno is. You're going to start off with a whole bunch of waves, ranging from little things to big things, but essentially it's just going to be all the same thing. Maybe you defend the pillars, you might not have to depending on how strong some of the relics are. But once you're through the waves, you're going to have to start fighting a whole bunch of Jads, up to 3 of them. Not much different than getting your Fire Cape, although everything's just going to be a little bit harder. And then once you're done there, you're going to fight the big bad Zuck, which he'll also have kind of like some mini wave things happening, but worry about that when you get there. Don't worry, you're going to have some help, alright? Now, Leagues is a great time to try and go for this, because you're going to have so many powerful relics. Now, your combat style is going to be mainly determined by one of these relics, because these all correlate to range, mage, and melee. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about melee because you can't melee Zuck. So, like, I mean, there's a world where you do some sort of defensive build with, like, Justiciar, because this relic does give you 50% more defense than you'd already have. So, I mean, it could be pretty good. You tank the waves, you tank Jad, and then you get to Zuck. Maybe you recoil him down. That would be hilarious. But, you know, maybe you just kill him with, like, an off style. So you pick up, like, a crossbow or something. I mean, you probably get away with a ruined crossbow and still kill him. It would just be slow. But because of that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about melee. Sorry if you were hoping for a melee Inferno Cape. I don't think it's happening. At least it's not happening for me. So probably the easiest option is going to be range. Now, 2 things with this relic that you want to keep in mind. You've got a chance to shoot 2 arrows or bolts or whatever it is that you're shooting. And you also have twice the chance to proc any of the bolt specials. Now, that second one is going to make crossbows super, super strong. So you're going to have the Ruin crossbow, the Armadyl crossbow, and the Zerite crossbow. All of those are going to be really strong just because of the bolt specs. Because if you're not familiar, you know, Ruby bolt specs, they're going to hit a lot. You're going to hit hundreds on a ton of bosses. You might hit 2 of those. If you have the Zerite crossbow, it'll be 110. I mean, like, you're going to get a lot of damage. And especially when you keep in mind, with all 3 of these relics, you're going to be attacking faster. So crossbows are going to be 2 ticks. A lot of bows are going to be 2 ticks as well. The blowpipe is going to be 1 tick. So, like, you're going to be hitting quick. You're going to be shooting a ton of bolts. You're going to be getting a ton of specs, which is why crossbow is probably going to be the main thing that you go for. Now, you're also probably going to have to go to Kourend. I mean, you don't have to do anything if you don't like it. No one's there to force you. Definitely have fun. That said, the Rigger Prayer is significantly better than Eagle Eye because you get extra range damage percent from the Rigger Prayer. It's like 23% if I remember right. So even if you don't want to do the Twisted Bow, there's a reasonable chance that you're gonna end up going to Kourend anyway just for the prayer. Now, there are a lot of good options, and I mean, really, all of the weapons that are up here are gonna be good. I mean, even, I'm trolling a little bit with the Ballista. I mean, it's gonna be 3 tick, it's not gonna be 2 tick, so it'll be a little slower and everything, but a 3 tick Ballista is still gonna be really fast. So, like, you really can't go wrong with any of the weapons on here. Now, like, the big hitters are gonna be things like Kourend, Asgarnia, and Taranwyn. But, you know, if you wanted to go for, like, a fun build with the Venenator Bow and Fremnik, or you want to, like, follow my hopes and dreams to the Ballista, man. I mean, you get the Ballista, you get a Lightbearer. The thing has a spec, and if there's a spec relic, you might be just blowing through things, because the spec on the Ballista gives you 25% more damage. So imagine if you can, like, more or less non-stop spec, you're going to be hitting an absolute ton with the Ballista, even if it is 3 ticks. Now, all of that said, you do have to keep in mind a lot of the stuff that you're going to have to do on the waves. You might need Ancients. Like, it's going to be pretty challenging, I think, without Ancients, unless there's some relics that help fill in that gap. Both because you're going to have Ancients to freeze any of the monsters, including the Nibblers, which are going to try and, like, tear away your safe spots. But also, if you wanted to, like, reposition in a wave, and you wanted to freeze something, like, without Ancients, you're not going to be able to do that. The other nice thing that can be there for Ancients is blood spells. Now, I don't think this is going to be as important in this league because you can bring Onyx Bolts if you have a crossbow, and you're going to be getting a lot of healing specs off of those. They've also revealed like a unnote relic, so you could bring a whole bunch of noted supplies in your inventory. So I think Blood Barrage is probably going to be less important, but Ice Barrage is going to be really helpful to you just so that way you can keep the pillars up and give yourself and allow yourself to play the Inferno a bit slower. Because as powerful as you're going to be, the Inferno is still going to hit you really hard. Now, I've got a list of specific builds that I think would be kind of fun, but before I get into that, I want to talk about Mage. Can't let all of you Mage lovers out there feel left out. I do think Mage is going to be possible for Zuck. He does have a really high magic attack and defense compared to something like ranged. So you're going to struggle to hit Zuck, probably. But the cool thing with magic is you're getting 20% more damage, and you're always going to splash. So you may not even need Ancients at all, just because every spell that you cast is going to splash. Now, the problem that you're going to run into, since Zuck has such high defense, if you don't go for a Tumikin's Shadow, it's probably going to be really hard, and I don't even know if you'd be able to Mage Zuck. You could always switch and kill him with range, bring in a Ruined Crossbow, kind of like the melee guy, right? It's not going to be as fun, but I mean, getting through the waves, getting through Jad, I think that'll be pretty easy overall, even if you don't end up going for the Tumikin's Shadow. Now, a lot of these areas, they have a lot of choices in weapons, right? I mean, similar to range, there's a ton of options out there for you. A lot of people are going to be looking towards Kandarin because the jewelry provides so much damage percent. So you're almost always going to be picking that if you are going magic. That said, to each their own, I think you could probably get away with picking some other areas if you absolutely hate Kandarin. But again, I mean, if you're talking the Zuck fight, if I was going mage, I would be picking the Tumikin's Shadow, which means you're getting the desert. And then from there, probably picking up Kandarin. And then the last area is just up to you. Now, I wish that the volatile staff could just do better. I mean, like, it's good, and it's got a cool special, and if they have a special relic, it might be worth picking up anyway. I just think if you get to the Zuck fight, like, you're gonna be splashing. Like, you're not gonna be able to hit him at all. It's gonna be awful. You're gonna have a sad time. So, I love you, Mauritania, but, like, I don't think it's happening. And same thing with Wilderness. I think that whatever the heck that scepter is called, I don't remember, it's like Thermi something. The Thermi something scepter, like, it's cool and it's got a special. Like, but like, I mean, it's just not going to be as good outside of the wild, and like, you're not going to hit Zuck. You're just not going to hit Zuck. Like, it's just not going to happen. There's no world where you take Zuck down with that thing, unless you're really good at the Inferno. Please, like, if you're pro, you can go disprove me. I think it'd be cool to see. I love kind of these fun builds, but just like the first time Inferno going for it, that's where I'm at. I'm like, man, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be real tough. So these are a couple of builds to just kind of play around with. You don't have to go any of these, but on the range side, I think for myself, I'm probably going to be looking towards Asgarnia Desert Karen. Just because of all of the things that I talked about. If you get lucky, you're getting a Twisted Bow. If you get lucky, you're getting a Zerite Crossbow, and both of those are going to be really good. You've also got things like the Armadillo Armor and Missouri's that's coming with the Desert, and you can combine those, and then you're going to get the Empowered Missouri's. So, like, it's really hard to beat that setup for range. Now, I know some of you are just absolutely in love with the Machine Gun Blowpipe and the Crystal Armor and Bofa. So, Tiranwin Desert Karen is also going to be really good. And it's also probably going to be a little bit easier to get the Blowpipe and the Bofa compared to, like, the Twisted Bow and Zerite Crossbow. Both of those are, like, super rare, so it's going to take a while. You're going to be grinding a lot of raids, grinding a lot of necks. Whereas, I mean, you're still going to be grinding probably a decent amount of Corrupted Gauntlet and Zora, but it's not going to be anywhere near the same. Now, if you want to get a little bit crazy, you could look towards, like, Asgarnia Fremnik Karen, and then you're going for something like the Venenator Bow, and you're hoping that there is enough AoE on that bow to take out things for you, and I have a feeling that it's probably going to be pretty good, actually, because a 2-tick Venator bow, I mean, those arrows, they're gonna be like, they're gonna be going everywhere, dude. I'm excited to see that. I hope someone does it. I don't know that I will, but like, I really do think that one's gonna be actually pretty good. You're just gonna have to be careful about nibblers destroying your pillars because you won't be able to freeze them. So like, you may run into some trouble with that. The last build on here, again, I mean, I'm kind of trolling with this, but I think, I don't know, if they put a special relic in there, that heavy ballista is gonna be hilarious. Your character is just gonna be like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, is it good? Like, you're not gonna beat any of these other things, but like, come on, it's gonna be so fun, you know? I just, don't do this. If it's your first Inferno, don't pick that, okay? I'm crazy. Stop it. Don't think about it. This is like experienced people only, or you don't care if you actually beat the Inferno, then like maybe you have a good time with that one. Now, for magic, again, I've only put the Tunic and Shadow on here. There are a lot of weapons. I just have very little faith that the accuracy stacking without the Tunic and Shadow is going to be able to do enough damage to Zuck. And while you could kill it without a powered up relic, you're in leagues, you know? Like, you'll want to use your main combat style. You'll want to feel all of that power. So for both of these, again, you're going to have the desert. And kind of like I was talking about before, Kandarin, if you want to go the jewelry, if you absolutely hate Kandarin, you hate doing laps on the A-Patrol agility course, which I definitely do. There's probably going to be a task to do 2,000 laps and get the monkey backpack, and it's going to suck. And you're not going to want to finish it because almost nobody loves doing that. I know there's one of you out there who loves it, and I'm sorry, I know that's not you. Please enjoy the choice. If you don't, Fremnix, like, it's an okay choice. You're gonna get the Saturated Heart, you're gonna get the Magus Ring, so you're still gonna be getting some extra damage there. It's just not gonna be as good as Kandarin. And again, with all of these stacking stats, I mean, the more that you can stack up, the better that you're gonna do, just because, again, the magic defense on Zuck is going to be really high, so you're really going to struggle to hit him. And again, with all of these, do keep in mind at the end of the day, you got to have fun. So, I mean, if you hate some of these areas, don't feel like you have to pick it to go for the Inferno Cape. And especially with some of these, like, big item drops, so things like the Tunic and Shadow, things like the Twisted Bow, like the Zerite Crossbow, you're going to be grinding a lot to get these things. So if you don't have a lot of time, keep that in mind too. So this is why I think things like Asgarnia Desert Corrend, because you have backup weapons, backup plans that you can fall on if you're not able to grind out all of the stuff. Like, you could go Asgarnia Desert Corrend and end up with an Armadillo Crossbow and Void, and probably still be able to beat the Inferno relatively easily. Whereas if you're going magic and you're relying exclusively on the Tunic and Shadow, and like you're maybe not that proficient at raids, like you're gonna be in there for a long time. You know, if we're talking like a 50-hour grind or even a 100-hour grind, that's a lot of time in a 2-month temporary game mode. And I know a lot of people in the past have gotten burned trying to go for these big ticket drops. So just be careful with that, and think about like what types of things you like to do, and prioritize that over prioritizing this. Unless you're crazy like me and you're going for the Inferno Cape and that's the fun, then, you know, I mean, hey, you got it here. Good luck to you. I'll be in there with you. But what do you guys think? What type of builds are exciting to you? What types of choices are you looking at? And any of you crazy melee Inferno guys out there, I mean, let us know what you're going to do. I don't know how that's going to look, and I wish you the best of luck on that. I'm sure the tank builds will be really fun to watch. Now, if this has been helpful and you want to watch my grind towards the Inferno Cape, I am going to be doing daily uploads, at least for the first week of leagues. Then subscribe so that you don't miss that. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video.